Hello, everybody. My name is Alyssa Brace, and I am the host of the Women of the West podcast. I hope that you are all enjoying this lazy, rainy Sunday and are able to pop in and listen. I am super excited that I have Becky Wigemyr on here today. Thank you so much for joining us, Becky.
Well, thank you so much for asking me, Alyssa. This is just a thrill, and I'm very impressed with your get up and go to create this podcast about women of the West, because there's a lot of really amazing women of the West.
Yeah, there really is, and I so appreciate you taking the time out of your weekend to come and spend a few moments with me, because you guys have some exciting family things going on, so I so appreciate that you were willing to spend some time with me today.
Yes, that's true. My husband Dwight and I just welcomed our first granddaughter. Her name is Wilder Lynn Wigemyr. Our son Denton and his wife Tess had her on Monday, June 1st, right on her due date. So that's actually what I'm doing this afternoon. We were over having a little visit with the new little family. So yes, it's been fantastic. We've got a little breakaway roper in the making.
Oh, good. That's super exciting, and such an exciting thing to happen to your family right now during all these crazy times. She is probably just such a light in your family right now, so I'm so happy for you guys.
Yeah, she sure is. And you know, it is, like you said, it's a very strange time right now, but there's a lot of little blessings in that too, because our son and his wife and their little girl really got the opportunity to just get acquainted as a family, and without all of us, who definitely would have been right there in the hospital room, and as soon as allowed, and they were, just because of the rules, they really had a really special opportunity to just spend some time together before the rest of the world rained down upon them. So yeah. Lots of, it's a funny time right now, definitely, but there's a lot of really positive things that have come from this time as well. So.
Yeah, that's true, and it is a difficult time, and I think in order for all of us to kind of keep plunging along, we do have to see the positives in it, even if they can be few and far between. We have to find those good moments, and the fact that we can all slow down and have more time with each other and be able to even do things like this is a blessing in some ways.
That's right. And where I am right now, which is in High River, Alberta, it is obviously we are getting the same weather, because it's kind of a lazy, rainy Sunday here as well.
Yes, and a great day to do a podcast. So we'll jump right in to the first question that I've kind of made it the staple question for what I'll probably ask every lady that I interview. So where did becoming a woman in the Western world start for you?
Oh, good question. Well, for me, it started the day I was born. I was really fortunate to be born into a family who was involved in the Western lifestyle. I was born into a rodeo family. My dad was a calf roper, and it was called calf roping then. Now I guess it's called tie-down roping. But we just always had horses around and cattle around, and I don't remember not riding. I think they entered me in my first rodeo when I was about 6 years old. I was a barrel racer, and I was crazy about barrel racing. and also we got to do lots of really neat things. In the equine world, I was in horse shows and gymkhanas and that kind of thing. And yeah, I just had a really broad experience, and most of them were on the back of a horse. So yes, that's how it all started for me. And then as I got older, I had a lot of varied interests. I actually taught dancing as a teenager as well. And then when I went into college, I college rodeoed a little bit, and then I married in 1993. I married my husband. His name is Dwight Wigemyr, and Dwight is a team roper. And and then I became a mama, and I have two boys who both rope and rodeo, and now here I am writing stories for little cowboy kids.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I love how you've kind of hit all of the stages. You were a competitor and you stayed in the rodeo world and then became a rodeo mom and are still able to contribute to the rodeo world now, even by being an author. It's just such a cool way that you've been involved throughout your life in the Western industry.
Yeah, and it really, I think that when my little cowboys were younger, I really noticed a gap in the market when it came to kind of authentic stories, children's stories about ranching and rodeo and that Western lifestyle. There wasn't like there was none, but they were few and far between, and often they weren't really authentic. They used maybe language that was a little less familiar to people that actually did it. And so I did actually try to, I did write some children's books when my kids were quite young, but I feel like the timing just wasn't right then, and I didn't really have the time or the internet to be able to figure out exactly how to get that done. But I had, over the years, I've always had these little stories on the go in my mind, and there's files full of papers that with little stories. And finally, when the time was right, which is sort of what life is all about, is timing. I was able to sit down and really make the moves that I needed to make to in order for it to happen. And so that was in about 2016. I finished a couple of books, and then just started really pursuing options for publication.
Okay, yeah, that's so cool, and I love the book Cowboy Cody. I actually got the opportunity to read that story to a group of preschool kids when I was a rodeo queen. And so you kind of talked about it a little bit. So did the idea for Cowboy Cody stem from the lack of these stories being available to kids that were in rodeo?
Well, partially, yes, Alyssa. Partially. Really, the story of Cowboy Cody was sort of a culmination of a few different characters in my life. And I talked a little bit about my dad initially. My dad was actually raised in the city of Calgary, and he was not raised by by parents that were involved with horses or rodeo or really any kind of Western life. They were both real estate agents in the city of Calgary, and for some reason, my dad, from a very young age, just knew that he had to be a cowboy. And so he'd tell stories about, riding his bike where he lived was close to where Chinook Center stands today. And he would ride his bike to the Stampede grounds and kind of sneak in the back. There was a time where you could do that. You can't do that anymore.
No.
But he would kind of sneak into the rodeo grounds and, get himself behind the chutes, and he just put himself, in the path of cowboys, because they were his heroes, and he watched Westerns and read Roy Rogers all the time, and he was, he just knew that that's what he wanted to be. So finally, I think he wore my grandfather down, and my grandpa bought him a horse, which they kept on a little piece of land, kind of the way it was described, as out sort of in the Bowness area. And my dad would ride his bike as a little kid to go, and then he would just ride. Calgary was different in those days, but he would just take off and ride his horse, and he ended up meeting people that helped him along the way, and the rest is history. So that always kind of intrigued me about people that were not born into a lifestyle, but did just anything they had to be who they felt that they were. So there was that, and then my sons have a really good friend, and his name is surprisingly Cody, who started coming over to our place when he was about 7 years old, and he would he just loved watching us rope, and he loved the horses and wanted to be in the arena. And, so eventually he learned to rope the dummy, and then he started building his own dummies in his backyard at home. And, eventually, he's 25 years old now, and he's trained a couple of his own horses, and he's quite a good roper. He is quite an accomplished young man, and he just had the grit and determination that you need to do what you want to do, even though those opportunities weren't there for him, like they were, say, for somebody like me and maybe you too. So yeah, I've just been always kind of intrigued by that. I hear about the story of Patrick Smith, who's a NFR team roper, and his story is very much the same, where he, that wasn't his what you would think he would want to do just because of the way that he was raised, but for some reason that being a cowboy was in his heart. So that's sort of where the idea for Cowboy Cody came. And I really thought that would be a great opportunity for me to write a book for and about cowboy kids, using language and situations and settings that were familiar to them, and also maybe inspire little cowboys at heart to pursue and learn about what maybe excites them.
Right. Yeah, and I agree with you that I also am kind of intrigued and fascinated by some of the stories of the heroes of rodeo, and finding out that they're a first-generation cowboy or cowgirl. And so I like that this is kind of creating that love for the sport of rodeo. And when I was reading the story to these preschoolers, most of the kids in the Sundre area now, they are raised in town or on acreages, and they're not big rodeo or farming families anymore. And to be able to read this story to those kids and just watch that, as soon as I opened the book and started talking about a young boy who was raised in town and was just so thrilled by the sport of rodeo, they were just hooked, and they could not get enough of that story. And it was just so cool to watch how intrigued they were, and to wonder, well, how many of these kids are going to go home and ask for horses now?
Right. And that makes me, thank you for telling me that, Alyssa, because that's what it's all about for me. And I had kind of a similar experience. Right after Cowboy Cody was released, I was asked by one of the schools in the town that I live in Brooks, Alberta, to come into one of the elementary schools and read to a very similar age group, a pre-K age group. And Brooks is a very unique community, and we have nationalities in that little city from all over the world. And I wondered if this would be familiar enough to some of these little people that they would enjoy it. And I was just so encouraged, because those little people just absolutely ate it up, and they had so many questions. They had never heard of sheep riding before. They knew none of. I think I asked before I started, how many have you been to a rodeo? And one little guy put his hand up. And by the end, they just had so many questions. And one of my friends is a teacher assistant in that classroom, and she told me that I'd left a book in the classroom, but the next year, one of the little boys in that classroom entered the sheep riding at the Brooks Pro Rodeo. And I just thought that was so neat that, that inspired that little guy to take a look at the rodeo lifestyle, and to, and he likely brought his parents and his grandparents, down to the rodeo, and we maybe now have new fans through that little 15-minute story that I told them that day. So yeah, I hope that those kinds of stories are the effect that Cowboy Cody is having on people.
Yeah, and I'm sure it is, and it's always important to have new fans and create new rodeo contestants and and people that are going to bring their families to watch them. It's so important to keep our sport growing, and this book definitely